Let's call to order the meeting of the Worcester Redevelopment Authority. Mr. Dunn, would you conduct a roll call?
Sure, I'll start with Ms. Pitcher,
Here, yes. Morning.
Mr. Restrepo,
Here.
Mr. Weeks,
Present.
Mr. Pepper.
Here.
And Chair Angelini.
Present. All right. Thanks, all of you. The first order of business is to consider the minutes of the meeting of September 18, 2025. Those were distributed. They're in the packet. Are there any questions, comments, or suggestions for changes? Not hearing any. Is there a motion to approve the minutes as prepared?
So moved.
So
Second.
moved, is it seconded? Moved and seconded. We'll proceed to a roll call vote.
Yes, Ms. Pitcher,
Yes.
Mr. Restrepo,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Mr. Pepper,
Yes.
and Chair Angelini.
All right. Thank you very much. New business. The first order of new business is to authorize the inclusion of an option to purchase the ground lease for 36 Washington Square. Mr. Dunn.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. As the board will remember, at our, let's see, I think it was our August meeting. Just double check. Yes, at our August meeting, we had talked about the workaround that we're pursuing right now and making a lot of progress. We should be on track to close as intended by the end of November. But if you remember at the August meeting, we had sort of separated the transaction related to the Washington Square land for the hotel developer, where this one piece at 36 Washington Square, the piece of the land that's right up against the railroad, we haven't been getting a lot of responsiveness from the railroad on some kind of consent that we need for transferring that title to that land, and particularly some maintenance and repair obligations that the WRA inherited in the deed. And so at that meeting in August, we had authorized a ground lease so that they would acquire the remaining land, and then we would do a ground lease on that one section there that's closest to the railroad bridge. And as we have been drafting that, Mr. Trainer's been working with their attorneys on drafting that ground lease. One thing that they had expressed would be important to them is that if by chance we do get responsiveness from the railroad at some point in the future, that they could consummate the transaction as initially intended and actually take title to it. So they are asking for that term to be included in the ground lease, that there would be this option to purchase. And because it's just like a pretty significant substantive term of that lease, we wanted to make sure that the board was aware of it and it was included in the vote for that ground lease, because we didn't really talk about that specific scenario at the August meeting. So we wanted to just bring it back to the board and make sure the board was aware that the lessee and developer partner has requested that option.
Good. Thank you. Are there any questions regarding this?
Yeah, quick question, Mr. Chair, if you will.
Of course.
Yeah, just wondering, is there a reason as to why the railroad not being responsive? Any thoughts behind that?
I think generally speaking, they don't tend to be super responsive where there's not something that they're, I guess, benefiting from. You know, we do have interactions with them every so often, and we have a contact. And the contact, when I had first reached out to them, gosh, it was probably a year ago, to let them know about what we were working on with this and that we might need some communication from them and basically consent to this maintenance and kind of repair responsibility that the WRA has on the bridge. You might remember, just kind of going back historically, there was an old, we called it the vacuum cleaner building. There was a structure that the WRA had acquired when we bought the land, or when we acquired the land. I don't think we ever paid for it, that we demolished, and then we did some repair to that bridge. So through the deeds of that property over the years, there was this maintenance responsibility. And honestly, I just think that they're just not really motivated to get back to us on that issue, because it's not really like something that they're getting in return or benefiting from. I don't think that they have, you know, specific concerns or opposition or anything like that. It's really just been non-responsiveness, which is kind of unfortunate. When I had first reached out, they did respond and said, well, show us what you're looking to do, show us the document, and we'll take a look. And so I shared it with them over a year ago, and they just haven't been responding to us. And so we didn't want that to hold up. Obviously we've been urgently trying to get this transaction finalized, get them in good shape to start working on their planning board filing for the hotel and to build the hotel. And so we just figured this was a good workaround. But again, if by chance, we'll continue to try to get that responsiveness. And if they do get back to us and we can kind of move forward, then this option allows us to proceed with that transaction as we initially conceived it.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions?
Question.
I just
Will
have
there be
a
any?
question, if I may.
Sure.
Peter, I'm the new guy here. Can you tell me what the plan is for the disposition of this parcel? Are there any interested parties, or are we releasing an RFP eventually? What are the plans here?
Yeah, so this goes back to 2018, 2019, when we executed the first terms of conveyance with this developer. At the time, we did do a direct negotiation. So this is the developer that we partnered with previously on the Homewood Suites. So First Bristol Corporation built the Homewood Suites and then expressed interest in doing a second hotel on this remaining development site. And so it was a direct negotiation at the time. And we've had terms of conveyance with them since 2019, I think, is when it was first executed. And we had to do a number of extensions to that because of the impact of the pandemic, of course. So they were starting to work on plans to go to the planning board. And then 2020 happened. And so they've been waiting for the market to kind of rebound and recover. And so I think they're feeling very optimistic and confident at this point. So our latest amendment to the terms of conveyance, which we did earlier in the summer, extended the time frame for conveyance to on or before November 30th. So we've been doing a lot of legwork on that. We have a plan, A&R plan. There's been a number of A&R plans over the years with the particular parcels, as well as the old right-of-way of Washington Square and the old layout of Foster Street. So we've done a number of discontinuances of old rights-of-way as well. We actually had the last piece. There was the board had previously, I think it was probably around the spring, had authorized. Actually, I think we probably just went to the city council on this because I don't think it affected the WRA. But there was a last piece of the old Foster Street layout underneath the railroad bridge, which we brought to the city council in June. And actually, the Public Works Committee of the council voted to recommend approving that earlier this week on Tuesday, actually. So that'll be the last step. And what's going to happen, if you can picture the land, the old layout of Foster Street goes from Washington Square under the railroad bridge out to the new Foster Street. And so that's all been discontinued. And the piece, all of that piece on the Washington Square side of the bridge is part of this conveyance. And then the piece that kind of goes under the railroad bridge and out to the new Foster Street, we are going to be doing an easement with them so that they can use that as a means of egress from the site, a second means of egress from the site. So it would be a right turn only onto the new Foster Street to prevent, kind of cut through traffic and all that. So we're making a lot of progress on all of this, but that's kind of where it stands. It really goes back to, 2018, 2019.
So all the pieces are coming together now. The developer is still interested. And do we have a timeline on when the actual sale is supposed to take place?
Yeah, the sale would be on or before November 30th, and they are hoping to get into construction in first quarter, as probably as soon as the ground kind of thaws in the spring. They do still need to go to planning board. They've refined their plans. It's about 90 rooms. So they're working through civil engineering right now and have been communicating with utility companies because there was, I think, a national grid line that's going to have to be moved. So they've gotten all that information from National Grid, the costs associated with moving that electrical line that runs under the parcel where they're going to be doing the redevelopment activity. And so I would anticipate that they'll be in front of the planning board this winter to prepare for a spring type of construction commencement if all goes well.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yep.
Good questions. Thank you. Are there any
I just
further
have a
questions?
question. Yeah, I
Yes,
just have
Sherry.
another question too, just thinking about this project. And I mean, I'm excited. I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to be a great enhancement to the city and specifically Washington Square. But I'm just thinking about like traffic and like people coming into that intersection. It's already pretty tricky. Like, is that part of the whole process? Like, you know, I'm thinking like the Vogue School right now happening over like Washington Square. It's like really hard to get downtown. And I'm just thinking about, this is going to be another construction project. It's going to make it really hard for people to get downtown. So I'm just thinking of like downtown businesses and people who are coming into work. Like, I just feel like we're making it really hard for people, and this project potentially could have that same effect.
Yeah, it's a good question. They have come to what we call our IRT meetings, which is our interdepartmental review team, like a pre-development consultation as folks start to prepare concept plans and civil drawings to go to the planning board. And there was some feedback already provided to them on the specific locations of curb cuts, to your point, to make sure that any of that and the motions, because like a good amount of it's going to be right turn in and right turn out only to prevent, you know, the queuing and the backup that can be created when there's people trying to take left turns across multiple lanes of traffic. If you can picture, obviously, like that area has 2 lanes coming in and out of Front Street as well as Summer Street. So they've already gotten that kind of feedback. And then as they move forward, they'll be required to also do a construction management plan, which will get into like the logistics around, you know, staging of materials, where are contractors parking. I have a feeling they'll have contractors maybe even parking at Union Station Garage or across the street, because they'll need a good amount of the land for the staging of the materials and all that. And just to give you a sense, I don't have it in front of me, but I think we had previously shared with the board, there's the conceptual plan where the building itself is going to be on the north side of the property, so close to, you might picture, I think it was just recently sold or it's under agreement, the old St. Vincent building at 20 Washington Square. So it's going to be closer to that building, obviously set back, you know, from the property line and all that, but that's going to be where the building is situated. So a lot of the area that's like right on the frontage of Washington Square is going to be the parking area. And so I think they'll use a lot of that area for probably staging of materials and facilitating the logistics of that construction management plan. But we'll work with them on, you know, where's the most appropriate place for contractor employees to be parking, which could be, you know, across the street or whatnot, and having them walk to the site.
Okay.
Yeah.
But there's no other infrastructure improvements planned for Washington Square related to this project.
Actually, I think they might be, I don't know if I would say it's related to this project. I do remember, and this is a good memory because the late Gary Vecchio would make sure that I'm following through on this commitment. Is I believe First Bristol committed to the Shrewsbury Street Neighborhood Association that they would pay for a flashing crosswalk beacon. I think it's on Summer Street. You know, there currently is one, I think, on the Shrewsbury Street side. It's just for the 4 roads that come into Washington Square.
Right.
Not all of them have like the flashing crosswalk beacons. And I believe First Bristol Corporation committed that they would do that. And I believe it's the Summer Street side that doesn't have one currently. So they'll be doing that as well.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Good conversation. All right, any further questions? Is there
Mr.
a
Pepper,
motion?
did you have? I
I'm
think
sorry,
Mr. Pepper
Nick?
was going to ask something.
Oh, sorry, Nick, I'm sorry.
I was just wondering if the railroad continues to drag their feet, are we gonna hit any roadblocks down the road?
I don't think
That
so.
lease agreement.
You know, the one thing that comes to mind, actually, Mr. Trainer might be able to correct me if I'm wrong. I forget if they're building, and this might be a to be determined answer, because off the top of my head, I forget if how far back their building will be set back from the railroad bridge. But I know if you're pulling a building permit for construction in certain proximity, I think it's 50 feet from the railroad bridge, then they need to weigh in on that. And sometimes you might have to have like a flagman or something like that. For something like that that's related to railroad operations and safety, I would expect that they will be very responsive. It's the other thing that we had reached out to them about was kind of nuanced and kind of like didn't really affect them. So I think that they were just like not that motivated to respond to us. But I think if there's any implication like that because of the proximity of the construction near the railroad bridge, I'm sure they'll be very responsive.
Yes. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Dick. All right. Are there any further questions or comments? Is there a motion to authorize approval of item number 2? May I have such a motion?
So moved.
All right. Moved and seconded. Is there a second? Thank you, Sherry. The motion's been moved and seconded. In the absence of any further discussion, let's proceed to a roll call vote.
Yes, Ms. Pitcher.
Yes.
Mr. Restrepo.
Yes.
Mr. Weeks.
Yes.
Mr. Pepper.
Yes.
And Chair Angelini.
Yes. So the next item is to authorize approval of a demonstration project plan and acceptance of a deed from the Massachusetts Department of Transportation for the property at 611 Main Street, the so-called Registry of Motor Vehicles building. Let me just say in advance of our consideration of this, that this, from my reading, and I assume everyone has read it, is a very well-prepared paper and plan. I note that this is apparently the first time that the WRA is utilizing this provision of the general laws to undertake a development project. And it's obvious from reading that this has received a lot of care, a lot of attention and careful attention. So I want to thank you, Peter, and your staff for what appears to be a very detailed and well-considered plan. That having been said, it's open for discussion. I know that everyone on the authority has read it, but let's go through it as you wish and answer any questions. And ask you first, Peter, whether there's something you want to say in advance of those discussions.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I can give an overview and appreciate the compliments. I will definitely not be taking those compliments. That's Rachel Pressey on our team, one of our project managers, put this together for us and looked at a number of other demonstration project plans that have been done with other redevelopment authorities across the Commonwealth. So I had a good basis for that. And just by way of background, as the board members I'm sure are aware, the Redevelopment Authority is established under Mass General Laws, Chapter 121B. And within that, Section 46 talks about the powers of redevelopment authority agencies. And one of them, aside from, the full-scale urban renewal plans like we have with the downtown urban revitalization plan, is the ability under subsection F to consider demonstration project plans. So this is something that's obviously, more tactical, kind of single property basis versus when you do a plan, it's a larger geographic area. And so that's what we're looking to undertake with this partnership with the state Mass DOT. And so the kind of sections, some of these are kind of required or just necessary, is understanding and outlining what is the purpose of the demonstration project plan, an overview of the property, of course, what are the objectives. So particularly that subsection in the Mass General Law talks about undertaking demonstration projects to eliminate blight and decadent areas. Obviously, this building has been vacant since they relocated the RMV. We have had the temporary use and occupancy over the winters, which has been a good help from the state with some of our winter emergency shelter needs. But ultimately, their goal was to dispose of this and hopefully help us address the housing crisis that exists in the Commonwealth. And so they had previously put out the bid 3 years ago, right after the RMV relocated, and they didn't have any success with that. And so when we were chatting with them, we were saying that it would be great if the WRA and the city could have a more active role in that to make sure that any disposition and redevelopment of that site would be consistent with what we're trying to accomplish in some of our established plans. When you think about the urban revitalization plan, the housing production plan that the city has, the Worcester Now Next plan, we wanted to make sure that those types of local considerations were being taken into account. And similar to the partnership that we had with the state on the Worcester County Courthouse project, it's kind of, this has some, similar, I'd say, elements in the sense that at the courthouse, they had transferred title to us and let us, the municipality, lead the disposition of that property. And here, as they were hearing our feedback about that first attempt that they made to do an RFP, and they did an RFP, it just didn't yield any success. They said, well, how about we do something similar where we could transfer ownership of this property to the WRA, so the WRA can oversee the disposition and make sure that what is being done at the site and redeveloped at the site would be consistent with our vision and objectives. And so this plan is basically what enables the WRA to do that. And so as this moves along, we will formulate an RFP with input from the board, and we'll also have, you might have seen in the demonstration project plan, we'll be doing some community engagement as well. Obviously, we have a lot of plans in the city that have included community engagement, but for this site specifically, we'll be doing some community engagement on that as we develop the aspects and details of that RFP. And that's how we'll move along, similar to what we've done with other property disposition. We'll have a land disposition agreement that outlines, all those terms and conditions and we'll certainly do the evaluation. Hopefully we'll get multiple proposals. I think we might get multiple proposals. And as we evaluate that against the RFP criteria, we would bring that evaluation result to the WRA for consideration. And the WRA could, similar to what we did with the Denholm, the WRA board could conduct interviews with proposers if you would like. So I think it's, a great opportunity for us. It's definitely, I appreciate the state hearing us out on making sure that we're involved and making sure that any kind of redevelopment of the site is consistent with the local needs. And then the other aspect that you'll notice in the vote is that the state and Mass DOT want to make sure that they are fairly compensated for their property. So where the WRA doesn't have to compensate them directly, they've asked that when we do the RFP, we have a minimum bid price of at least 1.5 million that they would receive the sale proceeds, and then anything over and above 1.5 million we would get to share in that 50-50, which is also nice of them to consider that for us, because we will have, this might be one of the questions of the board I would anticipate, and we're working through this, is we probably will have some minor carrying costs as we go through our acquisition until the time that we identify the developer, and have those carrying costs assumed by the private sector, being able to share in any sale proceeds above and beyond that 1.5 million minimum bid price would be helpful in offsetting any kind of cost that the WRA might have associated with this. So that's kind of
Let me ask
overview,
a question about that. Let me ask a question about that, Peter. Because so when originally, as I understand this, when initially conveyed, the deed will be for nominal consideration,
Yes.
$1 or so.
Yeah.
If we then sell the property in connection with the development, the first 1.5 million goes back to the Commonwealth,
Yes.
right? And amounts above that belong to the city.
It would be 50-50 split between the
50-50.
WRA and the state.
And will our expenses in connection with this project precede the 1.5, or will they be limited to being taken from our share of the 50-50 split?
I think the intent now is that it would be from the 50-50 split. I think the state has expressed their interest in getting at least 1.5 million in the sale proceeds.
Yeah. And have we determined what the fair market value is of the property as it sits there?
It is, I would say, substantially more than 1.5 million. Let me just see. I know the Commonwealth, and I think I have a copy of it. Let me see. The Commonwealth had done an appraisal in, I think it was 2022, after the RMV relocated, and when they did their initial RFP, they did do an appraisal at that time, and I think their minimum bid was a lot more than 1.5 million. I think it was closer to 3. Let me just see here if I can find it. Yeah, I think I have it here. So they prepared, it was 2022, spring of 2022, they did an offering memorandum from Newmark, Knight and Frank is who did it for them. And they did, let's see. I am not actually seeing the price on that.
Yeah, well, it's okay. But it does, you understand my concern. I mean,
Yes.
yeah. I have no idea what. the
I can bring
value
up
is of
quickly
that.
too what the assessed value is. It might even be in the demonstration project plan, but let me just bring up the assessed value.
Oh, if it is, I missed it.
Yeah, and usually the assessed value is a little under what an appraised value would come back at.
Yes.
The assessed value is 2.89 million.
Okay. So that means we're pretty safe that,
And I would say, actually, not to interrupt you, but there's nothing that obligates the WRA to establish our RFP at a minimum bid price of 1.5. But 1.5 is what is the minimum amount the Commonwealth would like to receive out of the sale proceeds. So we could decide to establish a different one for a minimum bid.
so your sense is that based on what you know, it's highly unlikely that this parcel would be developed at a price that would not compensate us at the very least for the expenses of this undertaking, right?
I would agree. I would agree.
Yep. Okay, good. All right. I perhaps interrupted you. I think you were finished, but I wanted to make sure you were.
Finished. Yep.
All right. So questions and comments from our members of the authority?
Just point of clarity, Mr. Chairman, Peter.
Sure.
Will the site be used as a shelter in this winter?
No, we're identifying other sites for that for a few reasons. Obviously, the city manager was aware that we were talking with DOT and considering this, and that we might acquire it under the WRA before the end of the calendar year. And there's just other considerations in that when the state owned it, there was some flexibility under the building code when the state owns it and the state building inspector. So that allowed us to stand up the emergency winter shelters at a reasonable cost over the last few years. And I also think that we're, just trying to be mindful of the fact that there's also some building code flexibility for temporary use and occupancy, which is 180 days or less. And so where we have had like periods, in the summer where it's not being used, I just think that we're starting to maybe get a little too creative with that interpretation. If we were to continue to use this property year over year, this would have been, if we were to consider that property for an emergency shelter, I think it would be the third year. And it's kind of hard to say that it's only a temporary use when you're using it for the same use year over year for 3 years. It starts to kind of call into question whether or not you can still be qualifying for those certain exemptions on the building code. And it would require a massive investment to bring that property up to code. In fact, and I don't know if this is a question that is kind of, I think, outlined a little bit, described a little bit in the demonstration project plan, we would expect that the proposals we'll get on this is to demolish the building and build something new in its place because of the conditions of the building. And obviously highest and best use, it's a single story property. So when you think about just, the different development models and what would be highest best use, it's very unlikely that we would be getting proposals to just reuse the existing single story building.
Just a last follow-up question. Is there a timetable as to when we may put out the RFP, request for bids, on this project?
Yeah, we in the plan, we identify that as certainly 2026. I'd say, hopefully early, in the first half of 2026. We would anticipate, obviously, this is under consideration now for the board, but if this were to move forward, we do have a deed drafted with DOT, so I think that would be fairly expeditious. So, I would anticipate probably us taking ownership before the end of the calendar year. We will have the community engagement that we want to do as part of the demonstration project plan. So I would anticipate hopefully in the first quarter of 2026, we would be prepared to put out that RFP. But that's kind of the tentative timeline right now.
Okay, thank you.
Questions from other members of the authority?
Peter, I'm just wondering, what's happening with the adjacent, I'm thinking the building behind the RMV, I don't even know, that it used to be a hotel.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking of the adjacent properties, what's happening with those?
The one most close to it is actually to the side. It's 627,
27, yeah,
which is the
Worcester
former
Market,
Worcester Market building,
Right.
which is currently being used as an adult daycare, essentially. And I think it's pretty successful, pretty popular. Mostly on the first floor is what's most active. I think they have had different ideas of how to further activate the second floor of that building, but it sounds like it's, their operations are going well and it's pretty popular. But that's what's happening. That's the property that's most close to
Right.
it.
Yeah.
To your point, the old Holiday
There's no shared wall, right? There's not a shared.
I think there is a shared wall. Just
Peter, if I may, there's the walls are attached. I'm not sure it's seared yet. They definitely are attached.
Yeah, there's no like setback, but I don't know that I would call it a shared wall in that sense. Like I think they have, they're two exterior walls that are effectively
Right.
They're
effectively
contiguous,
touching,
but not shared.
Yeah.
Okay. And what about the hotel? But what's behind it?
So those are residential condos, right, Paul?
Right.
Residential condos.
Yes.
I think that's 70 Southbridge Street, if I remember correctly. I think that's the address. Yeah.
I think they were
And some
converted
commercial,
many
right?
years ago.
First floor?
Yeah. Sorry.
Yes. Yes. Yep.
Does that answer your question, Sherry?
Yep.
All right, thank you. Are there any other questions?
If I may, Mr. Chair, Peter, I'm
You
just
may.
looking for just further, for my own purposes, for further clarification on how this project is unique under Chapter 121B, Section 46F. You mentioned a comparable with the old courthouse. So under this new designation, which the WRA has never done, the WRA gets power of eminent domain. How is this unique, and what is the WRA going to do different in comparison to other projects that the WRA has done in the past?
Yeah, it's a great question. So under that subsection, it specifically needs to be done to eliminate blight. And so in the past, we have always undertaken more substantial urban renewal plans. And so in this case, it would be, property specific basis, and where it's kind of a collaboration with the owner. I think that's a kind of unique in the sense that we have a partner in the Commonwealth, and looking at ways that they've been trying to use state land to address the housing crisis and make sure that, we have that local consideration in mind, where, they could otherwise just do an RFP themselves as they attempted to do 3 years ago. So I think there are, definitely some characteristics of this partnership that are unique from what we would be doing in other cases with like private property owners typically. And it is certainly, there's some benefits on the expeditiousness of it too. If we were to undertake, full scale urban renewal plan or a major plan amendment, if we were to look at our existing urban renewal plan boundary and then try to change the boundary of it, it would take us, we would be having this conversation like next year, not this year. So I think in terms of, how we're trying to urgently and expeditiously address the housing crisis in the Commonwealth, utilizing the powers and the tools that we have in this partnership with the state, presents a unique opportunity.
Okay.
Are there any other questions? Okay, let's have a motion. Is there a motion to approve this item?
Motion to
Motion to
approve.
approve.
All right, I hear a motion. I've heard a second. In the absence of any further discussion, let's proceed to a roll call vote to authorize approval of this demonstration project plan.
Ms.
Mr.
Pitcher,
Dunn.
Yes.
Mr. Restrepo,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Mr. Pepper. And I saw him say yes. I saw he's on mute, but I saw him say yes.
I heard him.
And,
I
Chair,
heard Mr. Pepper. I heard Mr.
and,
Pepper say yes.
Chair Angelini.
Yes.
Oh.
Thanks.
Oh, yes. Sorry.
It's okay. No worries. No worries.
That's all right. We're there. All right. Great job on this. This is an exciting opportunity for the city, and this may be, I think, I suspect it may be a model for further such demonstration plans in the future. We'll see. Any event. The next is status reports, and we turn to you, Mr. Dunn.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Starting with Union Station as well as the MBTA working group. So we have our MBTA, local MBTA task force meeting is going to be happening on Monday, the 27th. And so look forward to reconnecting, because it's been a couple of months since that local group has met. One of the things that has come up just kind of over email, I want to make sure the board is kind of aware of this as well, that I think we'll be discussing further with MBTA at that meeting on design considerations of the center platform. I think some folks were were confused, and I think it's possible the design maybe sort of evolved over time as they did code analysis and whatnot. But as you can picture it, the center platform is it's in between the two tracks, right? So the new corridor that was created out of the rotunda, you kind of go under the tracks now, and there's a new stair, as well as elevator that brings you up to the center platform. And we have been going, as you know, especially with some of the waterproofing activities that we were working with MBTA and their contractor on the station side platform and station side plaza. I think it wasn't really clear in some of the design presentations that the reconstruction of that is now only to be used as a station side plaza. It is not being returned to be a fully functioning boarding platform. And it kind of was brought to light, that design consideration, because recently they've been installing a fence, like a good looking fence, but it is a fence nonetheless at the edge of that plaza for safety and security, making sure that people aren't getting into the right of way and the railroad tracks. And so we had some commentary from our riders and the task force members about that, and how it feels like it's almost disconnecting the rail from the building. Obviously, we have the new connection that goes to the center platform, but we'll be discussing that in more detail. The feedback I got from MBTA Capital in their initial kind of email correspondence related to that was that our station side plaza could never be used again as a fully functioning boarding platform because of the code requirements, particularly accessibility. So that one of the issues is that it's too low, so it's not high enough. And you could say, well, could they have spent the money in partnership with us to raise the elevation? I do think it could create some awkwardness in terms of how that accessible plaza then connects back to the station, because right now it's level with the doors of the station. So how do you deal with that change of grade? And there's only so much space there to deal with that change of grade if you were to raise the platform to meet that. And the bigger requirement with the train code is that boarding platforms need to be 800 feet long. And our plaza is about 400 feet long. And so they were using it. It was kind of pre-existing, non-conforming, right, as it was. But one of the goals of the center platform project was to create an 800-foot boarding platform to make sure that it met those codes. So we're going to hear more from MBTA about that, and just different considerations, engineering considerations or cost considerations as to why we wouldn't be able to restore that station side plaza into a fully functioning platform. But you might hear about it and I can report back, but I wanted to make sure that you all were aware of that conversation happening.
Thank you.
And then just as it relates to Union Station, the building itself, next month, our public facilities team will be giving an update on the immediate critical capital projects that we see and getting those moving, in particular the generator, fire alarm, sprinkler, trying to wrap that up, and then sort of forecasting what's next. They have included Union Station as they put out a request for qualifications recently on doing a master plan for public facilities, so including other buildings of the city, but Union Station will be part of that. We certainly have our own assessment of some things and have identified recently some facade work that is likely to be needed to be done in the short term because of some of the issues with some materials coming off of the facade. So we'll kind of give more detail about where we stand with capital projects and next steps at our next board meeting. And we did, over just the last few days with all the rain, we have identified a couple of leaks that we'll have to address as well. But that's kind of where the overall station status is right now.
As to the working group, Peter, has there been any recent discussion about increased or faster service to and from Boston?
No, it relates to, I think I mentioned at the last meeting, I've been invited to join this Alston I-90 task force with Mass DOT. One of the things that and the Research Bureau is going to be presenting their report to that group, I think either in November or December. And one of the things I noticed that they plan on sharing with us at the November meeting of that task force, which I'm going to be very interested in seeing, and I'll report back to this group about it, is, let's see here. I just want to characterize it in the way that they've characterized it. They're calling it a rail operations analysis. related to the Worcester main line. So I think it might have to do with feedback we've gotten from them before on like within their scheduling, where they have certainly heard our feedback on like, improving the time of departure to make sure that the train schedule actually works for our commuters, because we're never going to get more commuters off of the Mass Pike if the train schedule doesn't work for commuters.
Right.
It's like even just a 5-minute change in one departure from a station has that cascading effect across the line and within the system. I think it sounds like they've been doing a more detailed analysis of those operations and scheduling implications. So definitely looking forward to see what the result of that analysis is, and then be happy to share it back with you all as well.
Please do.
Yeah.
My observation as a occasional commuter is that travel time by car to and from Boston is increasing incrementally, consistently. And this is a big hole in our transportation network, but we do what we can. All right.
I just had a question
anything-
that's related to the
yes.
capital projects that Peter mentioned. Is that like an all or nothing situation? Like you mentioned that there were other buildings included in that plan.
I don't know if I know what you mean by an all or nothing.
Like you said, there were other buildings included in the capital projects. Like, is it like you do all the buildings or you do none of them?
Oh, no, it's more of like a needs assessment. It's a needs
Okay,
assessment. And
okay.
Union Station is unique in the sense that, yes, it still has overall like capital budget implications for the city, but one of the benefits we have at Union Station and for the Redevelopment Authority is our ability to access the federal FTA dollars, which is still intact for now, as far as I can tell. There hasn't been
Right.
any threat to that. So any of the stuff that we do at Union Station only really requires the 20% match requirement. So that gives
Okay.
us the advantage where our dollars go a lot farther at Union Station versus other city buildings that are 100%, city capital. Yeah.
Understood. Thank you
Yep.
for the clarification.
Yep.
All right. Are there any other questions on item number A, 3A? Okay. Peter, the next item.
On the Denholm and downtown urban revitalization
Yes.
plan. So
Yes.
would have loved to report that we had amendment number 1 executed with Menkey Group on the Denholm building. The ball is definitely in our court. So I'm waiting on the law department to produce that amendment
Good.
so that we can have the Menkey Group sign it. So certainly hope that we'll have that fully executed by the next board meeting. But I think the law department's just been trying to keep up with a number of things that have been on their plate.
Understood. Understood. Is there any, has there been any action taken by Menkidi in the meantime since our last meeting?
We've had just a check-in call to go over where we're at with that, as well as just trying to kind of think through how we can try to be creative on addressing the abatement and demo plan for the building. We did actually, this is a good point. We had applied for a site readiness grant from Mass Development, which we have received. We don't have it contracted. I'll have to bring it to the board probably at the next meeting to execute. But one of the things that we wanted to make sure was we were just kind of uncovering every stone to help address the abatement and demo needs there. And so every summer, the Commonwealth does this community one-stop grant application process for a variety of different grants across different state agencies as like kind of a consolidated application process. So we had submitted an application to see if we could get some resources from the state to deal with some of the abatement and demo related items. And so I think the maximum award is 500,000. So we applied for it. We did get a notice that we'll be awarded that 500,000. So we'll figure out how best to program it. I think it is probably related to chipping away at the abatement first, because obviously you can't do any demolition until you get the abatement satisfied. But that was one thing, and just trying to think through, okay, as we move forward and try to, de-risk the project, get the abatement and demo done, what role do we play? What role do they play? How do we just, try to accomplish that in the most efficient and successful way possible?
Good, thank you. All right, questions on Denholm property? Madison Properties, I will tell you that a week does not pass when I don't get a question from someone in the community about what's going on with Madison. Is there any change in status, Peter?
There really isn't, no. The group that has the second residential site under agreement is still working on getting a planning board filing done. I expect they'll be able to get before the planning board before the end of the calendar year. So hopefully that continues to go well. We obviously talked at the 2 meetings ago, I think it was, or maybe it was last meeting, the appraisal that we did get on the left field building. So we could certainly try to facilitate that, transaction if we identify a buyer. I have a couple of, feelers out there that I think there has been some curiosity from the private sector about that site, but nothing really, I'd say substantive just yet, but trying to figure out ways that we can help facilitate that left field building sale. And other than that, not much. I will say that we have progress in the district as a whole. So there was a report to the city council earlier this week that you all probably read about, where we reconciled the end of FY25, which is through the end of June of 2025. And we did not have the revenues within the district to fully cover the whole debt service for this last fiscal year. It doesn't mean that, we have to go back to the taxpayers and ask for more, because the way it works is in the budget process at the beginning of a fiscal year, we know what the debt service is going to be, so it's budgeted. It's just that we, didn't have the self-supporting revenues for that through the course of FY25. It does look like the outlook for FY26 should be much better. We consistently have growing revenues, which is good. So while we still have some challenges with the progress on Madison's particular properties, we still, for some of the stuff that has been completed, as you all know, assessment and the revenues that are collected on a property tax basis is a reflection of value. And so, properties like the Cove have not been fully taxed yet. So that'll continue to grow. They had obviously the restaurant, American Flatbread, that'll boost some of the meals tax revenues in the district for sure. And then we have one of the big ones that I think we were anticipating in FY25, but the building permit fees did not get collected by June 30th, is the building permit for that next phase of the Table Talk redevelopment. So SMC Management is actively doing site work, as you all probably have seen over there, for the 105 units right along that Theodore Tona Way, next to the ballpark and next to Washington Street. So that's really good to see that progress going. And the building permit fee is substantial. It's a 6-figure value. So if we had received that building permit fee before the end of June, it would have made the performance of FY25 a lot better. So just wanted to mention that, because while there is still concern around the progress on Madison's site specifically, we're not in like a period of stasis in the district as a whole. There's still revenue growth happening in the district, which is good. So I think FY26 will be a much better result.
Good, thank you. Okay, any questions on Madison? Thank you. The next items are reports, financial reports you've received. I assume everyone has read them. If there are any questions regarding items 4A or B, this is the time to raise them. If you have not read them, I urge you to do so. And in the absence of any questions on those items, there appears to be no other business before us. Is there any other business that any member of the authority would like to bring to our attention?
I'm good.
Nope.
Oh, actually, one thing that,
Yes.
I want to be as advanced as possible this time, is for November, I wanted to make sure, could we plan for November 20th? If that makes sense for you all, Thursday, November 20th. I'm just going to be traveling November 13th. So November 20th would be great if that works for you all.
What's the weather going to be like?
Works for me.
It's going to be chilly. I'm going to Iceland, actually.
Okay, November 20 it is.
Great.
Would we consider an in-person meeting at some point?
We
That
could
would,
do,
yeah,
if
I
you're
think
available in
that's a good
November,
idea.
we could do that in November.
Let's do it. Let's meet in person in November.
Okay, great.
All right. Sherry's
Right.
bringing the
I'll
muffins.
send the invite. Thank you.
All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Great. Motion made and seconded. We'll proceed to a roll call vote. Mr. Dunn.
Yes, Ms. Pitcher,
Yes.
Mr. Restrepo,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Mr. Pepper,
Yes.
and Chair Angelini.
Yes. Thank you all. We are adjourned. Have a great
Thank
day.
Have a good day.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
See ya.